So, I promised everyone a few days ago that after I watched the viral video, the documentary that everyone's talking about all over the nation, it started off Washington, now it's going viral all over the country and probably globally because everyone's watching our homeless crisis in United States in a few different cities like Seattle being the second worst, I believe, in the nation. Almost tied for number one worst. So anyways, I watched the documentary finally. Seattle is dying, and first thing I'm going to say is you need to watch that documentary. It's well put together. It's not slanted politically, right or left. It's a very factual, well done documentary by a left-leaning news company, which I appreciate. I don't care if a news company's left or right-leaning if they do a good piece and put a lot of work into it. And I think Eric, I think his name is Eric, the journalist that put it together. I think he could be up for a Pulitzer Prize because this is an amazing documentary. It's an amazing news piece, and I think everyone needs to watch it. So watch that piece. We're going to discuss it right now. Seattle is dying, and he is bang on with this. So let's talk about Seattle is dying. Or should we really say, let's talk about the issue behind that documentary that's so life-changing. And that is homelessness. And homelessness basically being a symptom of addiction and mental illness. This is not new. I mean, my goodness. You've got to be stupid in a way that stupid doesn't even exist to not know that homelessness in Seattle and the couple other cities as bad as Seattle, in all of these cities, it comes down to like, my goodness, I think it's like 70 or 80% of people that are homeless are drug addicted, and that does include alcohol. Alcohol is known as the gateway drug. It's the worst abuse drug there is. It's worse than all the other drugs. It's worse than heroin or meth or opiates or anything else. I'm not saying the effects are worse or anything. We could debate that on another channel, another vlog. But the point is, alcohol is radically dangerous. And the domestic violence and all the other stuff and DUIs and the amount of deaths that occur because of alcohol and the amount of health concerns and everything are second to nothing. I mean, it's horrible. But let's just talk about opioids, and heroin, meth, all that kind of stuff. That video was just, it blew me away. It took my breath away, brought me to tears. It really sobered me. It made me sit there, and I'm going to watch it a few more times because there's a lot to really look at in that video that makes you think, you know. But here's what I took away from it, in my opinion. And this is something that I've listened to a lot of talk radio. I mean, literally, not just probably, I say tens of thousands of hours, but over the last 20, 30 years, I mean, between, you know, podcasts and everything else, I've probably listened to hundreds of thousands of hours of political talk radio from different angles, and obviously tens of thousands of audiobooks and personal development stuff and religious Christian podcasts and sermons and everything like that. It's just something I enjoy. You know, I've turned my vehicles into driving universities. You know, I mean, if you've got the time, slap some headphones on or whatever and spend, you know, 6, 8, 10 hours a day learning, you know, about whatever subject that you're interested in. So anyways, out of all the stuff I've ever looked at or listened to or whatever, the situation with Rhode Island in that documentary blew me away. And what I was getting at with this point with listening to all these podcasts and talk radio and everything, is my favorite, just my personal favorite talk radio guy is Lars Larson. You know, there's a lot of great people out there. A lot of great people. I mean, he's just one of many, you know, but I love Lars Larson. The reason I love him is he's pretty much the same views as me on almost every single thing, which is he's hardcore libertarian, believes in personal liberty first and foremost, small government, keep the government out of our pocket and off our back, and let businesses and people do what they want with their own money, their own capital, what they earn. And that's pretty much the view of most libertarians. You know, stay out of my pocket, stay out of my life, let me live my life the way I want. And as long as I'm not hurting anyone else when I'm out there. And he's got conservative values, which is the way I am. If I take a political test of any type, I always fall in the same spectrum on any political test that I've ever taken. And that is, I fall right in the area of being a hardcore libertarian, independent libertarian with conservative-leaning values. Like abortion, I'm 100% pro-life. I don't believe anyone should have a right, not me or anyone should have a right to murder a baby. It's not your baby, it's not my baby. That baby has its own right to life. And I think we should be defending that. That's just one example. Do I think drugs should be legal? I'm a libertarian, so I'm going to take a different approach to drugs than a lot of people do. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, you know, if people want to do drugs to themselves and hurt their own health and all that kind of stuff, so be it. As long as it doesn't affect taxpayers and other people out in society and hurt them, then, hey, if you want to do that to your own body in your own living room or whatever, that's okay. The problem is when it falls or makes its way into our streets. That's a different situation. So that's kind of my viewpoint on all of that. And here's something, let me bring this all back to what I was talking about. Lars Larson, for as long as I've listened to him, has always said, why don't we build something, you know, in the middle of Eastern Washington or something, I'm just paraphrasing, and build a beautiful facility that takes care of all of these needs. We're not talking a concentration camp, guys. Don't get all wonky with me on these stupid ideas like we're talking about putting people in chain link fences, you know, with razor wire and keeping them trapped there, you know, 3 people to a cell. No, we're talking about building a facility like Rhode Island did in the documentary. I think that is great. In the middle of Eastern Washington or somewhere where there's no one around, no neighbors, no one to bother, and make, you know, pour $100 to $300 million into it. Good Lord, we spend $1 billion a year. Think about that for a second. We spend about $1 billion a year throwing money at homelessness, addiction, mental illness, all this stuff, only to have the problem in Seattle get worse by the second. Not by the day or month or year. It's getting worse by the second. People can't even live in Seattle, run a business in Seattle, or even know if they're going to make it through the day and be alive at the end of the day in Seattle. It's like a zombie apocalypse in Seattle. If you don't believe me, go there. Walk around. See how good you feel with your family and your little kids. You know, I was there a couple months ago where a bum just walked up and cold cocked this guy while his wife and kids were there. I had to kind of get involved. I didn't do much. I just basically said that's not going to happen again. If it does, we're going to throw down and there's going to be one body on the ground and it ain't going to be me. So, you know, you got to stand up for that crap. You know, that guy didn't deserve that. His poor wife and kids had to see their dad and husband get assaulted by a bum on the street who is just a big old schlep rock that doesn't want to work and would rather do meth and heroin versus being a part of society and contributing. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as he raised his hand to that person, he should be in jail or prison, and that's the end of it. Put them in the frickin' facility. Just like Rhode Island. No more of these, don't do it again, and 42 arrests later, they're still telling these people don't do it again. As people take a dump on the sidewalk, they piss all over, they're dying in their filth. Last year, you ready for this? Sit down and listen. Last year, 2018, 191 people died in the streets of Seattle, and not a single one of them needed to die. Every one of them could have been saved and could have been okay if we would have cared. The liberals say, we should have we should have safe injection sites and give them more drugs and let them shoot up more and everything like that. That's a pile of shite. Everyone knows that doesn't work. You know what works? Tough love. Loving them enough, or loving them more than they love themselves. Loving them when they're not lovable. Doing something about it. That's a great documentary. He covered so many important topics. But the thing I really got out of it was the thing they're doing in Rhode Island was spectacular. We could invest a couple $100 million, build probably the nicest facility in the whole nation, if not the whole world, and still spend a fifth of what we're spending a year on entitlements and handouts so people can continue their horrible lifestyle. Send the people to this facility. When they break the law, they get arrested. They get sent to the facility. They do not get let out. They do not pass go. They do not collect $200. They go to the facility. Period. End of discussion. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're a 12-year-old or a 48-year-old. I don't care if they're a vet. I don't care if they're mentally ill. I don't care if they're shooting up meth on the street, walking around in their underwear, taking a dump on the sidewalk. They go to the facility. Why? Because we should care. We should help them get better. If they don't want to go, it doesn't matter. They're breaking the law. We have a right as a society to uphold our laws and care about our fellow citizens. And if you think tough love and dealing with it this way is a mean approach, you've never, ever, ever dealt with someone who was addicted to drugs and threw away their life or hit rock bottom. Or you just don't care. Because any liberal argument, and it's always a liberal argument, you'll never hear it from the right or from a conservative. It's always a liberal argument saying, just entitle them more, throw more money at it, give them more drugs, give them a place to shoot up. Go find 10 or 20 people that used to be addicts that are now clean and sober. Ask every one of them, is that a good solution? Yes or no? Should we give them more drugs and give them an easier way to shoot up and take drugs? You know what every one of those addicts are going to say? Absolutely not. Here's what needs to happen. They need to hit rock bottom. They need to be put in a facility, and they need to get sober, clean and sober. This requires help, and it requires tough love. I mean, if you haven't watched that video, if you haven't watched that documentary, it's on YouTube. It's everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. And everywhere in the country that is taking a tough love approach is turning their city around. Seattle, on the other hand, who has probably the most uncaring, nastiest bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. They literally smirk and laugh at the citizens of Seattle during their meetings in these town hall meetings. They laugh and smirk at the people when they disagree with them. They sit like they're elitists on a hill. It reminds me of like the Pharisees and the Sadducees back in the days of Rome and Greek times, when the certain few philosophers would sit around and pretend they're better than everyone else up on the steps and everything, and pass judgment on everyone else. It doesn't work that way. You got to get dirty. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to care about people, and you got to have tough love. Anyone that's been around someone that was truly addicted to drugs or alcohol or is mentally ill knows the only way to solve that is to force them to get better, to help them get better. And they will thank you later when they're clear-minded enough to thank you. But until they're clear-minded, they don't know to thank you. All they know is they want another fix, and they hate their life. Once they get better, they will thank you. They'll cry in your arms. They'll look at you and say, thank you for loving me enough, loving me when I was not lovable, putting me in a facility when everyone else just was okay with me dying in the streets. I'd like to know if one person watching this video really thinks, and I want your comments. Please comment. Send me comments. Good, bad, whatever. Challenge me. Or say thumbs up, great video, or say horrible video. Say my opinion sucks. I don't care. You know, it's my opinion. I'm allowed it. But it's based on a couple decades of watching this kind of stuff. But the point is, we're not going to get better as a society or anything, or solve these problems if we as a society don't get mean and nasty and demonstrate some tough love. And I'll tell you, out of all the people that have been addicted to drugs and alcohol and mentally ill that I've ever known that got clean and sober, every single one of them thanked the people that helped get them there. I'm going to end with this. I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago that's clean and sober, a friend of mine, and he said if it wasn't for his mom, his exact words, he said if it wasn't for his mom, when he was getting arrested, his final time being arrested before he got put away and became clean and sober, because he had to be, he was forced to become clean and sober by law. He said that his mom looked at the police officer and said to the police officer, "Don't listen to my son. He's a loser. He's a thief. He's a meth addict. He's a heroin addict. He breaks the laws. He'll do anything. He'll hurt anyone to get whatever he wants for his next fix. Put him away and don't ever let him out unless he's better." He said that was one of the most painful things he ever heard in his life from his mom. But you know what else he said? With tears in his eyes, he said, it's the greatest thing to this day that ever happened to him, because it helped him get clean and sober. It saved his life. Watch the video. There are people over and over again in that documentary saying if they would not have been arrested, if they would not have been put in prison, if they would not have been put in jail, if they would not have been held in there against their will, they would be dead today. Their families would be missing a husband or a dad forever because no one had the balls to do the right thing. As I say all the time, and I'm known for saying this, you just got to do the right thing. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy. But it doesn't matter how the amount of difficulty. All that matters is doing the right thing. In anything you do. Integrity is not what you do in front of people. Integrity is what you do behind closed doors. Doing the right thing. Making the hard call. You know, and if you can't make those hard calls, get someone else to do it. Because we're not going to clean up Seattle or anywhere else if we don't take that approach like they have in Rhode Island and other places like that, or Arlington, or anywhere where they're sending out police officers with social workers, and they work with compassion first, and then after compassion doesn't work, they throw them in jail and don't let them out until things get better. I'm sorry, but everything about that documentary was bang on. Eric, the journalist that did it, deserves an award. I believe it's the best documentary of the year. I believe he deserves the infamous award that journalists go for. A lot of them work their whole life to try to get that award. And it was a real touching video. It brought tears to my eyes. It hurt to watch. It made my blood boil. It pissed me off. It made me angry. It raised all the different emotions. And you know a journalist has done a good job when he puts together a documentary that can stir all of your emotions together. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this little tidbit on the documentary Seattle is Dying. And get back to me. Please subscribe to my channel. Please click subscribe below and click the little bell so you'll get updates every time I do a video. I do all kinds of vlogs on music, political things, religious things, Christian things. You name it, man. You want me to talk about something or review a song or review something or talk about whatever or talk about a controversial subject? There's nothing taboo for me. I'll talk about it. Shoot, I'll talk about abortion every day and twice on Sunday. I don't mind. I don't hide my views. I mean, I believe anytime you have a view or a worldview or a perspective, you should be able to defend it against anyone, but with kindness and love. You should never have to call people names. You should never have to be mean to people or demean them. You should never be condescending like the Seattle City Council is. They're the most condescending bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. It's like they went to so much school that they forgot how to be nice and treat people with respect. I think you should be able to have a conversation and debate people without being mean to each other and calling people names. So, peace out. Hope you're having a great day. Have a great weekend. See ya!